You can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, so my topic is about mental robots, the effect on decision making. So when we look at the role of technology in our lives, actually, we can say that is an indispensable part of our lives. In every aspect of our life, we can use it for many different purposes, and it is an inevitable result of we use it in education. So when we look at the role of technology in education, we can say there are many digital tools and many technological tools integrating into our life. And when we look at the characteristics of the individuals, they are more literate compared to the past. So we need to address their needs as a learner, as an individual. So again, that is a part of our life because we live in a technology enriched environment, and that is a really natural process of our lives. And when we look at the changes in the educational process, learning materials, especially, and teaching and learning methods and approaches, we can say, especially the current approaches and the changing roles of the teachers and students, we can say, yes, we use technology in every part of our life and in education. Actually, my field is in language education, but in this study, we try to look at the general tendency of the users, academics and students, the use of AL tools. So we can say, especially during the online education and some pandemic issues, the individuals tend to use some technological tools because we are online, we are in front of the computers, we can read everything on the screen through websites, applications. So that is really practical for us. So it provides an enhanced efficacy and globalized learning opportunities. We can reach everything on the internet, and it provides a kind of individualized learning experiences for us and effectiveness in educational administrators. That's why we try to put some role of these tools into our education practices, not outside the classroom, but inside our classroom. And many studies or just the researchers, we can say AL tools continue to evolve in many ways, like ChatGPT 3.5, and now we will get a new version soon. And yes, we will use it. And I try to just check the perceptions and the tendency of the academics and students while they complete their task assignments or they're just daily things that are totally related to education. When we look at the statement of the program, there's a great interest on the use of AL tools, while some people don't know anything about it. And the students' tendency for using AL tools for their educational purposes and academics' tendency for using AL tools. So the purpose is to explore to what extent users in the field of education, I mean the academics and students, are affected by AL-driven suggestions by making their choices. So AL tools are just a kind of mentor to get some suggestions, or they just totally rely on that suggestion and they use it in their life, especially the education part. To achieve this, to examine this, we have some research questions on to what extent do they rely on the suggestions? What factors influence the level of trust of users if they prefer AL suggestions in educational context? And what about the task complexity in terms of decision-making process? Actually, it's an ongoing study, so we try to get many students and academics from different fields, but it's a survey design. It has a survey design, a cross-sectional. Until now, we have 198 participants. Most of them are students and a really small version of the academics. And it lasted approximately 7 weeks. We try to continue to get further data, and it's a quantitative based one, and on the data until now. And in this questionnaire, we have different parts, including the demographic information, their age, their field, their gender, and the general things, their tendency to use AL tools, and the 12 different educational scenarios. And these are include some questions while you are preparing a course, or if you are a student, you choose a course, which one do you prefer? And when you make a course study resources, which one do you prefer? What about your career path and educational software if you are going to study professional development? I will show some the questions related to this scenario, so I will skip that part. But we have 12 different scenarios related to education. When we look at the findings, let me remind you the questions. To what extent do users in the field of education rely on AI-driven suggestions in their decision-making process? If they follow it, what factors influence it, their trust level? And what about the test complexity? That is totally related to the scenarios. Which one are more complex, perceived by the users or not? So I want to show you, if the first question is about their knowledge about their familiarity about AL tools. Some students are very familiar. The great version of just say somewhat familiar, but we have still some individuals or students or academics, they don't know anything about AL tools. So it's really interesting. When we look at how often they prefer AL suggestions, as you see in the table, again, a small version of says always, but there's a controversy here because when we look at the scenarios and the answers of scenarios, most of the students and the academics says, yes, I will trust AL suggestions. So not always, maybe because they say, I revise it, but they use and again, and don't prefer an AL tools, and they just go the traditional ways to overcome any problem or prepare their lesson plans and everything for education purposes on their own. So when we look at the level of trust and AL-based recommendations and educational settings, as you see, the great part of the just trust and the other part's neutral. Actually, the ones they say neutral, they say, I just ask some suggestions for AL tools and I revise them and use in that way. That's why they say neutral. I just get an additional source or something or to check whether my decision is correct or not. So these are the scenarios, like if you are a university student and you are going to choose your courses, which one do you prefer? And it commonly says in the course selection, I prefer my own things. But when they imagine they are a high school students preparing a crucial exam, they say, I would trust the AI recommendations. So that is more intelligent. So it can give us a kind of guide to decide what kind of sources and the things I can study. So it's important. When they imagine they are a recent graduate exploring a kind of career opportunities, again, they say, no, I decide on my own. So we can say these are a kind of personal things, course selection, and which occupation they want to take part in. They follow their own ideas. Again, if they are an elementary school teacher looking for some educational software, they say a great number of the learners or users just say, I will use AL tools. So there are some reasons, like the discussion, they say it's really time saving. So my effort is decreased when I use AL tools. So it will be really practical to decide what kind of technologies I will use in my course planning. And if they are an educator interested in further development of their profession, so again, they prefer AI suggestions. Especially if you are conducting in a course online, they commonly prefer the AI suggestions. And we have different applications on website and many things to learn a language. Again, they prefer the AI suggestions to decide what they can do to learn a target language. So it's a kind of mentor and a teacher guiding them in terms of language learning. As a parent, as you see, I don't know why, but the people think that the family, the parent is a special thing. So in this one, they say, no, I decide on my own. Maybe it's about the decision of the families or just a different atmosphere that we are a family. So they follow their own choices. As a student, they follow AL tools. So we can say, a learning platform, again, AL tools. And the university administrator, again, for educational programs, they prefer AL tools. And the researcher, stated commonly by the academics, they say IL tools, and especially statistical information or statistical data, I use some AL tools to decide. So we can say these are the reasons why they prefer. But when we talk about like a discussion of the preferences of the participants, they just choose the family issues, course selection, and their career development. They just follow their own ideas. But the rest of them, they just follow the AL tool suggestions. They are really powerful. And when we look at why they prefer it, the biggest portion is it provides many options. So maybe I cannot think about it, but I am enlightened when I see it. And it saves time and effort. So it's so really practical. And especially the level of trust, they say the AI suggestions provide me a transparent explanation. So I am convinced when I see this. That's why I prefer it. Like the discussion, we can say for the first research question, to what extent question, there is a great potential of AI tools to convince the users and affect their decision-making process. So when we have a new version, especially ChatGPT, we can say individuals are really affected by the power of it. When we look at the second research question, what factors, the most salient ones, time saving, different options, and clear explanations. That's why we are convinced to follow the AI suggestions. And the last one, test complexity, that is an ongoing study. So I cannot say really specific thing, this one, because we need the participants from different departments so that we can explain the test complexity and the balance between the departments. So I skipped that one. As a conclusion, we can say AI tools are really powerful things to affect the user's decision-making process by providing many advantages. These are commonly the practical ones and not so related to their families and the personal issues. For the further research, we can include some different specific tools, like not just ChatGPT, but the different ones, larger sample, including different participants from different areas, not just education maybe, and different scenarios to see the effect of AL tools. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Merve Hocam, being on time, using the time perfectly. Actually, I want to ask again, is there anybody from the first group exploring the impact of increasing online multiplayer gaming? I think there is nobody. So now we can take questions for both presenters. Do you have any questions for Merve Hocam? Şamil Hocam, please.
Thank you, Ayşe, for your presentation. I have one question. One minute.
Mikrofonu yok. Oradan alacaksınız. Oradan çıkacağız. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for your presentation. I have one question about how we must check the real information. Is it comes from AI or is it comes from researcher based notes? Is it possible to compare real researcher paper or use with ChatGPT? Can I explain? Or Türkçesi şöyle, biz araştırmalarda ChatGPT kullanıldığını nasıl takip edebiliriz?
Hocam, let me say, okay, in English and into Turkish. Actually, there's also one question at the end of the questionnaire, including if you want to add something, and what kind of tools do you prefer, such as Microsoft Bing and the ChatGPT. There are some comments on the version of it, and I think that one is really useful, so I follow it. So I conduct them in the classroom actually, so I have a chance to get some kind of reflection from the students and the academics. So they commonly stated that we follow commonly the ChatGPT and follow the new versions of it, but also there are some students and the academics preferring the different ones. So especially the comment section, if you want to add something other, we can see the different applications or just the tools they can prefer, but the main focus is ChatGPT stated by them.
Thank you very much, Merve Hocam.